Back at the beginning of January, I decided to make a video talking about a singular bold prediction that I had for every single team in the NRL for this season. Now it's time for me to be held accountable. The Brisbane Broncos. Reece Walsh wins Dally M. Yeah, definitely, especially with my ladder prediction, I thought Brisbane were going to have a really good bounce back year this year, and they didn't. So, yeah, I did think Reece Walsh would have a blinder of a year and thought he was going to get the Dally M, and he did not. He did not do that at all. Obviously, it would be won by Jerome Hughes in a very close battle with James Tedesco, especially when you look into the after the round 12 and how players are up high, and Jerome Hughes wasn't even there. He did really well in the second half of the season, which is interesting because essentially did the exact same thing Callum Ponga did, but nobody's giving him shit over it. But they did to Ponga because obviously he was probably the person they beat. Being a New Zealander and obviously playing for the Warriors, and obviously Jerome Hughes being a New Zealander, had a bit of that support there, so I don't know. But we're not ready to have that conversation about how basically it's just the same thing as Ponga, but no one cares for some reason. The Canberra Raiders. Ricky Stewart sacked / final year. Yeah, in terms of my ladder prediction, I did think that Canberra were going to go really bad. I actually had them coming for the spoon, actually. But yeah, they did sort of alright. Like, they did drop out of the top 8, but they did have some alright performances over the course of the year. And I think during the middle of the season, Ricky Stewart signed an extension, so obviously that didn't happen. So, yeah, that's another one wrong. The Canterbury Bulldogs will make the top 8. I think we might need to have a bit of a consensus on this, because whether or not this actually was a bold prediction, I guess. Like, I do think a fair amount of people did have the Bulldogs maybe sort of making the finals, but it wasn't that many, and obviously they were building up more players, so there could be a possibility of it being a bold prediction. I'm not too sure. I mean, technically it's correct. They did make the top 8, but I guess it's depending on whether or not it was a bold prediction. So let me know in the comments below if you think I should be given that bold prediction was the Bulldogs would make the 8. The Cronulla Sharks ruled out of finals in final week. Yeah, I was kind of preying on Cronulla's downfall, not gonna lie. But obviously, yeah, they weren't ruled out of finals in the last week because they made the top 4 somehow again. But yeah, it's just the Sharks are just always going to be in that top sort of position. I did expect them to sort of be in that battle of trying to cling into the finals and get knocked out. But yeah, they held on, did well. That's another L for me. The Dolphins will make the top 8 just. Pretty much right up until the final game of the season, this was probably going to be correct. Genuinely, they played against the Knights, they win, they would have claimed 8, so they would have made the finals just. It would have been a perfect one, but then the team I support, the Knights, decided to have other plans, so unfortunately, that one's not counting, but we were very close to getting that one correct. The Gold Coast Titans hosts a home final. This is another carry on from the ladder prediction. You should go watch that clip where I specifically talk about the Titans, because yeah, back me in January said some belters of statements, but yeah, Titans just, it's weird. It's like the last couple of years they've actually had a pretty decent team on paper, but it's just they haven't been really able to get everything done, and it's also had the element of Tino being out for the year. But next year, I reckon they hopefully will do better. I mean, they just signed Regan Campbell-Gillard, so on paper, they have a very top 8 makeable team. But it's just about whether or not, they do it, because obviously being good on paper can only get you so far. The Manly Sea Eagles. Luke Brooks will play State of Origin. Genuinely, game 1, we were so close to this. Basically, every single halfback that had some form of lineage to New South Wales got ruled out ahead of game 1. There's like, you had Cleary out. I think Moses was out. Pretty much it was like Nico. There was even talks maybe Nico was going to drop out. So we were very close to realistically having Luke Brooks playing Origin for New South Wales. So it is wrong, but I mean, I think he had a really good year for Manly. Kind of showed the Tigers that it wasn't his fault, because Tigers fans really made him the scapegoat and basically made him eat the words. It's like, nah, you just suck. The Melbourne Storm. Suafalogo wins Rookie of the Year. Yeah, so at the time I didn't really know exactly about how the Rookie of the Year works, but pretty much it's as long as you haven't played at least 5 games the previous season and you played mostly the following season, this season would be your rookie season. But unfortunately, Suafalogo just really, he had sporadic moments with the Storm, but he just really didn't cement himself into the team. Obviously, it was won by Jack Bostock, which I know people had some sort of controversy about it because you had like players like Kyle Iro, the other guy I can't remember. But yeah, it was a bit interesting with the rookies because honestly, gun to my head, I couldn't really tell who was going to win or like who would have been nominated. Like, I was considering even Fletcher Sharp because, I mean, yes, he did come in at like the last third of the season, but I mean, he averaged almost a try a game and scored 4 in one of them. It's like, I don't know, he had to have been like 4th or 5th in that. He had to have been close. The New Zealand Warriors. Top 4 or bottom 4, no in between. Obviously, this is another prediction one in terms of positioning. And I basically just kind of said, yeah, the Warriors are either going to go extremely well or extremely terrible. And they sort of were more on the latter, but they did miss out on the bottom 4. They came 12th, so they were just above it. So, I don't know. I just don't really know what happened to the Warriors this year. I don't know if it was just being hunted over from last season, but hopefully maybe in 2025... they can kind of sort themselves out because they've got the team to do it. The Newcastle Knights. Marju breaks try-scoring record set by Dominic Young. Yeah, Marju didn't really get that much of the ball last year. It's been unfortunate for him. I still think he did pretty alright. I mean, the Knights team was just all sporadic in terms of like players coming in and out. Then you had the playmakers as well. It was just Ponga probably also being out as well when he tries to dive up the left flank alongside Best. Best being out as well, I think. Definitely kind of affected him, but he's still a pretty decent winger. But yeah, the North Queensland Cowboys lose every game against Queensland opposition. Okay, hear me out on this one, because I'm going to make a bit of a debate about my case on why I think, in a smart-ass way, this is correct. Now, obviously, this should have been ruled out week 1, because the North Queensland Cowboys beat the Dolphins. But here's the thing. Where's the geographical location in the Dolphins' name? Oh, where are they from? Oh, Redcliffe. Well, actually, no. That's the Queensland Cup side, which has no actual proper linkage to that Dolphins team. So, yeah. They play their games in Queensland. I mean, it's like, just so happened, I mean, a lot of teams played their games in Queensland when COVID happened. I think it's just pretty incidental. So, technically, boo, ha, I got this one correct. The Parramatta Eels. Sivo ties Parramatta record for most tries in a single game. So, basically, the prediction is that Marcus Sivo would equal Jamie Lyons' try record for most tries in a game by an Eels player with 5, because if you look in terms of 4, he's been kind of knocking on the door a little bit. He did get it once in 2020, but I just, he got like a bunch of hat-tricks and stuff like that. I really thought he was potentially could have just done it randomly, say against a team like the Tigers. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get the job done, but I still think he did quite well, even after the month period where Parramatta made him a scapegoat for some reason, even though there was other issues. The Penrith Panthers won't make top 2. I mean, what kind of bold prediction could you make about Penrith? Like, what could you have said? It's like, oh, they'll win the grand finals. Like, well, you can't do that. I'd said they won't finish top 2. They did. They came second, and then they won their 4th straight premiership. So, like, you got it pretty hard. It's like, oh, unless you go ultra specific on a player, it's like, oh, Nathan Cleary will be moving on to England so he could be closer to his missus, who's probably on just as much, if not more money than him. Like, what can you do? The South Sydney Rabbitohs won't make the final. Damn. Okay, so this was kind of one in terms of like predictions where people were kind of questioning, because obviously Jack White had just come in, and I just was like, not really impressed. I do think that like the South would have came like 9th or 10th, even 11th, somewhere in that like gap, I guess. But yeah, didn't expect him to come 16th. Yeah, imagine that. The Spoon Bowl was between the Eels and the Tigers, and South Sydney came second last. That's kind of just shows the season they had, because it was just terribly unlucky for them. So hopefully they'll bounce back next year. In terms of players they let go, it's going to be hard to probably break out. I don't think they'll make the finals next year, but I think they should be able to do better. or worse. It's either way. The St. George Illawarra Dragons wins only 4 games. Yeah, they won more games than that. They actually did, in all honesty, quite well, the Dragons. Like, the Dragons had 11 of 13 of a season, and like in a season where a lot of people thought they were just going to be continuing with the same and not going that well. But they did pretty decent. They did pretty decent. I mean, obviously Zach Lomax being a key part of it, but now he is leaving. But I do think with like Valentine Holmes coming in, I think the Dragons, and also there's obviously other players like Damien Cook coming in, I reckon the Dragons can improve themselves, and I think they'll make the finals next year. So, yeah, very positive stuff for the Dragons. The Sydney Roosters will still miss the top 4. Yeah, with the Roosters, I just kind of felt that there would just be like, they're very close, you know. They'd get like one big player from the last couple of years and like move themselves up a little bit, but just struggling to break into that top 4. And I feel like this was going to be like one of those cases where they're going to be like 5th, because obviously signing Dom Young, but they didn't. They did make the top 4. They got 4th, so they did pretty wrong there. Just, yeah, kind of unfortunate there for the Roosters not being able to make the grand final. They did make the prelims, so it's pretty good. One more game than they were last year. And finally, the West Tigers will not concede 50 points in a match for the whole season. It looked pretty good for the first bit of the season, but yeah, they ended up conceding 50 not once but thrice. So there's that. So in terms of all the predictions that I have made, I think I actually did kind of okay. I did get like 2 right. A couple of, probably one that's a bit debatable about whether or not it was botting lays. Anyways, how do you think I went? Did you have any bold predictions? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.